On my video about people around the world rather die than be embarrassed, and the fear of being embarrassed, someone asked if I meant women, if women tend to be embarrassed. And so I would say I'll refer back to Chris Voss, and that I think this is something that's rooted in neurology and the survival brain for everybody around the world. It's not men or women, it's a hardwire, seems like a hardwired topic or issue, is, and no matter the language or gender or otherwise. So there's a lot of things. So what I'm trying to say is Chris Voss is working to discover how to talk to the survival brain. And a lot of the research he's done and discoveries either assembled information from different experts, or some of the discoveries they've made sometimes by accident, just by staying curious. And one of the studies he's found, produced by somebody else, is that everybody around the world rather die than be embarrassed. Everybody around the world rather die than give a public speech. And so a lot of us are practiced in giving public speeches, presentations. In the military, I learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable, though all of that, I would say, depends on, just because because I've given speeches, doesn't mean that I'm going to be comfortable talking about an embarrassing subject in a different area. One of my examples is two examples that I often refer to as money. A lot of people might be embarrassed to talk about money, and often leading to is divorces. So they say money is a leading cause of divorce. However, being embarrassed about money, especially when people rather die than be embarrassed, seems important consideration in marriages. The other is knowing how to have difficult conversations about money. And Chris Voss specializes in having difficult conversations. So hardwire and besides money being intimate relationships. Some of us are better practiced at having difficult conversations and embarrassing difficult conversations about intimacy. Some of us are not. I tend to be shy on intimate subjects, and so just because I can give a public speech doesn't mean I'm comfortable talking about intimacy. Now, I'm gonna bring up another extremely difficult subject. Harsh in the sense that a lot of people find me weird talking about this. It's a conversation I had earlier with a friend today, And in the sense that I heard Chris Voss talking about the significance of embarrassment, and he does everything he can to help you open up to the idea of the complexity and significance of embarrassment. Some things he does when he talks about it is he laughs. What laughing does, or smiling, is it makes you, everybody, the speaker and the listener, smarter. Feeds all the good neurochemicals. So what happens there is, so he's doing everything he can, even laughing, like, of the, like, preposterous, crazy idea that everybody around the world rather die. So I've been listening to Chris for years talking about the significance of embarrassment. And I talked about it for years. And I couldn't get any help through schizophrenia or anything else. The majority of people thought they would make me think of the positives, and it's like there's problems with that, and I've addressed that in different videos. I don't remember what it's titled. And so what's so I couldn't get any help, though by spring 2022 I started feeling better. Like I could, by spring 22 I felt I could function in society. I no longer pleaded with my therapist to have me locked in the psych ward. So summer 22 I felt even better, and I decided to move out of my place. I couldn't get any help in Alberta before 2019. So in 2019 I went to Nova Scotia, Ontario, Quebec, trying to get help. I couldn't. A friend in Alberta, a landlord, finally heard me saying I needed help. He agreed to house me. That was in 2020. Fall 2020, he agreed to house me. Summer 22, I felt better. I decided to move out. And I went to BC. Even though, in a sense, I could do different things to function in society, my health was still, I still couldn't get any help. The therapist argued with me, telling me I'm doing great when I'm pleading to be locked in the psych ward. When I couldn't understand that I'd been diagnosed with schizophrenia. And so fall 2022, I went to BC. Now this, I'm gonna say, will sound gross and disgusting, and might make some of you cry, might make some of you mad, or turn off the video. I'd lost incontinence. I was, how do I say this on YouTube? I was dirtying my pants all the time. I was pissing myself, and all through fall 2022. And even while I was doing that, I was too embarrassed to talk about it. and I pleaded for help. I did everything I could, but I couldn't talk about, even though I knew I was listening to Chris and I was talking about it with others, the significance of embarrassment, but I couldn't tell anybody. I was pissing myself and soiling myself, and that I had no control over I'd lost incontinence, that I had no control over my bodily functions. And it took me 2 years after that, it was 2024, before I accepted or understood, I accepted the significance of embarrassment. And then it was sometime in 24, I want to say spring 24 maybe, I finally started being able to tell others that I'd lost incontinence through fall 2022. So it took me, even after I got better in different ways, I still didn't talk about it for 2 years. And that's hardwiring. And the brain does things to survive, and one of those is everybody around the world is hardwired to be to do everything we can to avoid embarrassment, fear of embarrassment. And so with the hardwiring, I wanted to raise the different similar subject where, and a way to explain how our brain is hardwired, I've talked about, and this is one thing, two points on the hardwiring. One is, Chris Voss, master negotiator, talks about how all of the amygdala on the right side of the brain is dedicated to fear of loss. Half on the left side is dedicated to fear of loss. So 3/4 of the brain is dedicated to fear of loss, with the current best information we have. Similarly, a different expert in the military, I learned to look to subject matter experts. In mental health, I look to world experts. And so Dr. Rockberg, founding father of trauma science, he talks about how it's been discovered with using an MEG that PTSD shows up in the right side of the brain. And I should clarify, one way to explain how we are hardwired in different ways, everybody around the world. Now, this test wasn't done for everybody around the world, but everybody that was tested in an MEG, it was always found that PTSD results in the different electrical activity on the right side of the brain. So the right side of the brain is affected by the electrical activity on the right side of the brain is affected in PTSD. So the brain is not wired differently for different people with PTSD. It's just how much it affects a person might depend on the severity of the PTSD, though I would say and the other day I found out shell shock is a whole other subject. I think I've got a video on that. And the other day I learned more information and different information on amnesia was a common symptom of shell shock, as well as schizophrenia. Now, I don't remember the old or previous former name for schizophrenia. It's a two-part name. The first part I don't remember. The second part is dementia. So during World War I, when troops were shell-shocked, or because there's a difference between shell shock and, now I forget the other name. There was two major things going on. It seems shell shock was clearly the shutdown of the brain, or different parts of the brain, but clearly shell shock clearly shuts down different parts of the brain. And anyway, what I'm trying to say is schizophrenia, I'm finding more and more evidence that schizophrenia was a symptom of shell shock, and it was often cured, and sometimes in months, sometimes years. And so it seems like it might help to test schizophrenia in an MEG to see how the electrical activity is different for somebody with how the electrical activity is different in an MEG for a person with schizophrenia. What I'm trying to say is, it seems schizophrenics should be put in an MEG to test how the electrical activity is different. It seems to be more. I'm gonna sound. I said I used to be crazy. Now I'm gonna sound crazy and say it seems schizophrenia is like a worse version than PTSD. Like it's anyway. So this video is in response to whether embarrassment is a male-female thing, and it's hardwired for everybody, no matter gender, race, equator. Doesn't matter what side of the equator you're on. Everybody around the world is hardwired to be embarrassed, to the point that we're so scared of embarrassment that we rather die. So, positive note. Always end on a positive note. That comes from Chris Voss, Master Negotiator. Have a good night.